All right, sequence diagrams. Why the fuck not, man? What is the I have sequence diagrams are things that happen in sequence. I'm assuming there has to be a visual here somewhere. Order, order plus more. Kind of describing what we were checking earlier in what? Process modeling, right? The three types of process modeling. BPMN, right? So right now, sequence diagrams are used to model the logic of usage scenarios by showing the information passed between objects through the execution or scenario. So like, it's between flowcharts and BPMNs. The sequence diagram shows how to process an object interacting during a scenario class required to execute the scenario and the messages they pass to one another. It kind of shows the data or whatever is happening, triggered by steps in the use case, are displayed in the diagram. The sequence diagram shows how objects used in the scenario interact, but not how they are related to one another. Sequence diagrams are also often used to show how her user interface components or software components interact. The diagram represents information in a horizontal and vertical alignment. The objects that send messages to each other are represented as boxes and are aligned at the top of the page from the left to the right, with each object occupying a column or space or a page bordered by vertical stretching. Down the bottom of the page, the messages that are sent from one object to the next are represented as horizontal arrows. The order of the messages is represented as a top-down or left-right sequence, beginning with the first message at the top left. So they're giving us the rules now, right? What are the elements? The lifeline. A lifeline represents the lifespan of an object during a scenario modeling is a sequence diagram. So I'm assuming these dots are a lifeline, right? The example below shows the object order. A lifeline is drawn as a dashed line that vertically descends from each object box to the bottom of the page. Number 2 is an activation box. An activation box represents the period during which an operation is executed. So this comes with certain rules and tools, basically, that goes like, oh, okay, from this time to this time, or X amount of energy, or X amount of money. It can be terminated with an X, and it has a solo arrowhead leading to the activation object, basically. Like here, we could actually direct. What's the message? The interaction between two objects. The message is shown as an arrow coming from the activation box to the object that sends the message to the activation box to the object that receives the message. So object 1, there's an active here session. Execution specification, call, synchronous message, goes to the other side, and then it responds, right? We use this in code, by the way. Oh, amazing. This is called sequence diagrams, yes. So this area talks to this area, then this area talks to this area, and by the time this area, notice this, a call happens, a synchronous message happens. And then when this happens, an asynchronous message is sent, and then a response is coming back. So this is the timeline where everything is working together. It's not really A to Z, it's two-dimensional. It's not up-down only. It's up-down. It's not up-down or left-right, it's up-down and left-right. A synchronous call transfers control to a receiving object. The sender cannot act until the return message is received. So a synchronous call is like you call somebody, and then you can't make any other phone call unless they answer. And if they don't answer, you can make another phone call. An asynchronous call is basically I call somebody, but while I'm calling them, I can have a different conversation until they answer. So also known as a signal, allows the object to continue with its own processing after sending the signal. The object may send many signals simultaneously, but may only accept one signal at a time. And what are the considerations? Strengths shows the interaction between the object of a system and the chronological order of the interactions occur. Really look at it as like this happens, then this happens, therefore this happens, and then after this happens, this is triggered, and this response probably says, I received this, and I actually sent this, and go back, and then you can actually complicate it as much as you want. It's one of the beautiful things you could do with software. Shows the interactions between the objects on a visual manner and allows for the logic to be validated by stakeholders with relative ease. Amazing. Use the same way I explained it to you, right? 1, and then after that, because time happens here, and then you go to the right, and then time happens here, you trigger this, and then after this is triggered, you respond with this, and then here, basically, lifeline dies. There's no point anymore. We got the message. Unless there's something else that's triggered here that goes back to object 1, and we're designing a system, so you decide whatever the fuck you want. Time for effort can be wasted. Created a complete set of sequence diagrams for each use case of a system may not be necessary. Like if I were to sign in, I just kind of click and it goes and it comes. I don't necessarily need a sequence diagram because I'm sending information, I'm receiving it. But if after sending information, 5-6 things happen, and then they have to come back and they have to go through multiple different like authorization checks or authentication checks, then maybe you need a system for that, right? If you're just communicating with the database versus Shusmo. Have historically been used for modeling system flows and maybe considered too technical in other circumstances. Exactly. When you look at this, you don't imagine a factory, you imagine a software. You could imagine a factory, but the problem with that is like, this is code, so it's handled, it's managed, it's detailed. But if you're actually thinking from a systematic perspective and users are involved, then you probably are going to have a lot more variables than you can afford to have on a system. So I love you guys. And this is basically like, next we're stakeholder list map versus personas.